Today I saw the man that saved me when I was being raped. When I was 13 years old, I was arped behind a church next to the middle school I attended. I remember it like it was yesterday. It was a sunny day in the spring, right before school was out for the summer. I had a couple friends I hung out with and they persuaded me to skip class with them. As we were leaving the campus, security yelled at us to stop and everyone started running in different directions. I ended up behind the church, alone. As I was catching my breath, a man came around the corner. He was much bigger than I was at 13 years old. I was immediately scared and knew something bad was going to happen. He came up to me and said I was the snack he had been looking for. I tried to run, but he grabbed me and pinned me against the wall. I had no chance of escaping him. He was such a big guy. I'll spare you all the details. The assault happened for around 3 minutes. I was exhausted from trying to fight off this man and trying to scream while he was crushing my body with his. I don't remember if I passed out, or if my brain has been trying to block out the trauma, but all I remember happening next is another man jumping on my attacker and just beating the acid out of him. I didn't see him coming. I was naked, crying, dirty. I didn't know what to do. The man who saved me ended up knocking out my attacker. He gave me a blanket and comforted me as best he could until police arrived. The next couple years of my life were just a blur of depression. The man was arrested, my family moved us away from the area, and we never told anyone besides my immediate family. It has been 8 years since this happened. Today I went to McDonald's near the neighborhood I grew up in and saw the man who saved me that day. I went through the drive-thru and he handed me my food. As soon as I looked into his eyes, I recognized him but couldn't tell where I knew him from. He smiled at me and said, "You don't remember me, huh?" I laughed awkwardly and said, "Remind me." All he said was the name of that church, and every single memory that I had been trying so hard to forget came flooding back. I looked at him again and started sobbing. It was such an insane situation. I was sobbing in the McDonald's drive-thru. I was partly crying because of all the memories, but mostly because this man saved me and I didn't even remember him. He came out, we sat 6 feet apart, and we talked for almost an hour. Just about life. He told me that his fiancée is pregnant with their first baby and they're expecting a baby girl. Hess doing well. I feel like a huge weight has been lifted off my shoulders. I've thought about him through the years and have always wondered where he was, how he was. Today I finally got my peace. Story number 2. My BF arped me during a bad trip. We've been together for 6 months. He is controlling but has never been abusive before. The other night we took mushrooms together and at some point we had fun time. I was in a lot of pain and was asking if we could be done, and he finally said yes and stopped. I went and tried to get dressed when he grabbed me and slammed me back down on the bed and started having fun time with me again, and I was crying and begging him to stop, and he was saying some really messed up things in the middle of it. He did not stop until he finished. When it was over I was terrified and I told him he just arped me. He immediately started crying and said he had no idea what happened and he was so sorry and he thought it was just role-playing. He was confused about where he was and who he was with. I know he doesn't trip, so this was something he isn't used to. Has been really remorseful ever since and hasn't tried to have fun time with me. Story number 3. I was arped by a coworker, and it has now cost my family everything we had. 6 months ago, I left this comment on askreddit with the promise that I would update the story eventually. I made a throwaway for this question. We were at a work party. I was in college and she was a career waitress. I had recently gotten out of a long-term relationship that just ducking destroyed me. I wanted nothing, no fun time, no hookups, no cuddling in bed. I just wanted to be alone. I picked up the job at the restaurant to keep myself busy and make some extra money. I needed my time occupied, and this was the best way at the time. She had came on to me at work, but I kindly turned her down, telling her that I was not ready for any kind of relationship. She flirted often, but I didn't reciprocate. I literally had zero interest in anyone. I had 2 drinks at the party, and then one at a coworker's house after work shut their party down. I blacked out, not at all like me, woke up around sunrise half naked with her snuggled up to me. We had definitely had fun time, no ducking seeing them in sight. I was confused, very, very confused. Not happy. Not even a little bit. I slithered out from under her and got dressed. I walked a few miles home and passed out for over 12 hours, missed my shift at work that day. I went in the next day and told them what had happened. I got a write-up for missing my shift and made fun of for complaining about getting late. I walked out and never went back. 15 years later, I found out she had had a baby. We are in the process of finding out if it's mine. This essay consumes my thoughts every goddamn day now. I have no idea what we are going to do if he is mine. Edit. This is all fresh. She wants back money. Very, very much about the money. I don't know why, but she thinks that we're loaded or something. We are not by any means. Life has been one expensive disaster after another for my entire adulthood. This is my wife's insulin she dropped today while shaking about what the duck we are going to do. Everything is a mess. I'll update this story minus identifying details on this profile if you want to follow. Maybe it will be cathartic for me. As it turns out, the child was mine. We were hit with a massive child support amount to provide and were thinking that things were going to be okay in a few years after we caught it up. Right up until the pandemic hit and we both lost our jobs. Everything slipped, all the bills piled up. It was okay though. We still had food on the table and were hopeful to return to work. We still haven't returned since March. We were nearly out of money when today I went to get a few groceries and my card was declined. I was embarrassed, but thought that surely there was a mistake. Nope, the state seized the tiny bit of money we had left. No way to buy food, no way to buy my wife's insulin or supplies. Just a big pile of hopelessness. I'm sitting in my car and I have no idea how to go inside to tell my wife just how screwed we are. You can do everything you're supposed to, and still wind up at the bottom. I wish my family didn't suffer from my unfortunate past. Story number 4. I was our pet by my cousin, then fell pregnant, then I killed my child. No one knows. I was 13. My cousin started molesting me when I was 10F, him being 14 meters at the time. I didn't tell anyone for fear of keeping my family apart, because my mom was very close with his mom. I didn't really know what was happening, to be honest. In 2018 around Christmas time, he pet me for the 3rd time I think. I would have extreme panic attacks at family gatherings, and unable to talk to anyone. I missed my period and I knew something was wrong. I know you can miss your period when you're underweight or under stress, so I chalked it up to that. Besides, periods can be really irregular when you first get them, and I just started when I was 12. But I was sick every morning. I was terrified. I'd get up half an hour earlier than everyone in my family so that I had time to be sick in the bathroom. I thought that I could tell what gender it was already, that I had mother's sense and knew it was a girl. I wanted to name her Astrid. I had this plan in my head that I'd tell my parents I had met a boy and my parents would help me raise her. My symptoms were too obvious to ignore and I panicked. My cousin didn't know I was pregnant, only I knew. So I grabbed some wine from my parents' cellar. They're sort of wine snobs and wouldn't notice a missing bottle, and I drank the entire thing one night. I had hoped it would kill her. I wasn't satisfied, thinking that I'd just damage her rather than kill her. After about an hour of drinking, I got really angry. I totally flipped out. I started pounding my stomach with my fist, but nothing happened. I cried myself to sleep. I was so worried about going to school, being heavily pregnant, trying to take my classes. The next morning, I was feeling sick from what I imagined must be what a hangover felt like. But I didn't feel morning sick like I normally did. I shot up out of bed. My legs were covered in blood, there was so much. A normal girl might have sobbed at this. I didn't even flinch. I took the sheets and washed them out in the shower with cold water, then wrung them out and put them in the washing machine. And I got dressed and ready for school like normal. My parents never found out. It was usual for me to keep my room tidy and wash my own clothes and sheets. I later told my parents that my cousin molested me, having no long had the strength to hide it from them. My parents were devastated and blamed themselves. They told my cousin's parents, and my cousin owned up to molesting me. However, he didn't tell anyone he arped me, which is good for me. I started seeing a therapist to work through what was happening. She doesn't know about Astrid or that I was arped at all. It's been 3 years since then. I'm 16 now and I'm sleeping terribly. I keep waking up in the middle of the night calling out her name or dreaming about the blood on my sheets and often waking up checking my bed. I told an online friend yesterday. It helped to have someone know, and he doesn't know anyone of my family, so he can't tell anyone. But I thought it would be nice if I could really put into words what happened to Astrid and me. And Astrid, I'm sorry, you didn't deserve this. I can't wait to see you again. I love you. Edit. I wrote this before school and checked afterwards. I cannot believe the amount of people that read my story and reached out to me. I spent the past hour responding to as many as I could. You're all so wonderful. So many people were telling me I'm brave and resilient, which never even crossed my mind before. I'm so grateful, so sincerely thank you. A lot of people really highlighted how this is in no way my fault and I should let go of the guilt and shame I feel over it. And you guys are absolutely right, I'm working on it. A few people with previous experience and or knowledge in the subject reached out, letting me know that what I did was not enough to kill Astrid. Some even let me know that the sickness and late periods could have been due to stress. I may not have been pregnant at all. A common denominator that people mentioned was I should talk to my therapist about this, and how good it was I was already speaking to someone. As I've said before, I'm seeing her in 2 days and I will show her the post, I promise. Again, I cannot begin to express how grateful I am for everyone. I did not expect my story to get the reaction it did. There were also a handful of people that doubted whether my story is true, which is valid, as I often find myself doubting the things I read on the internet. But I am grateful to you nonetheless for reading my story. I hope that when I get older I can perhaps other girls who had a similar experience to me. And it totally sucks that so many responded saying they had experience with fun tifu violence as well. And I hope that everyone gets the help they need, and I admire the strength it took to grow through adversity. I cried particularly hard at the people who responded saying they're happy now, with children and a family. I hope that I can also be an inspiring story. All of you have a wonderful freaking life because you're awesome.